Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Perth Property Show.
That's all right.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Perth Property Show. My name's Trent Fleskens, your host as always. This week we're doing a suburb spotlight. It's been a few weeks since we have, and we're focusing on a suburb we've never had a chat about in 7 years before. It's a suburb, not the local government, the suburb of Stirling. We've got Brad and Josh Hardingham from Haiven in, the number one agents in the suburb for a very long time. Thank you very much for coming in, boys.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks, Trent. Really appreciate it.
First thing I wanted to chat about is life as a father-son duo in the real estate space. We see quite a few these days, mother-son, father-son. What's the dynamic like waking up and doing work every day with your son, Brad?
Oh, look, I think it's fantastic. I think it's amazing that you can have your son work beside you and basically watch his growth as well. Josh is going into his 5th year now, so straight out of high school, which is amazing. And moving forward is, I think, every day going to work with your son's great, I think. I don't know what Josh thinks, but it's nice to have him on board.
That's exactly right. And I think it takes you a little bit to get used to. I mean, we've obviously been working together for 5 years. We're probably at the most of a flow state now. The first couple of years, it just takes a little bit to get used to. But the good thing is you can't rely on anyone more than your dad. So it's always good to have someone in your back corner and know that it's someone that's going to work for you.
And I think the other thing, Trent, is as well is bringing that youth into it. That's now fired my belly as well in regards to our drive and what we're doing. And he sets goals. He's got perimeters he sets around. There's a lot of different things that he's bringing to the business that excites me. Being a real estate agent for 20 odd years, you get your flows and you don't move and change, but it's been really exciting with what Josh is bringing to the table now.
I think it's a case of also having that young, new perspective, not only reaching younger markets, but also understanding the marketing side of things, as you said, can get a little bit humdrum and stale after 20 years of anything.
Definitely.
So what's it like trying to reach markets as a young guy? What do you think you're bringing to the table that the old man probably wasn't a few years ago?
I think he's been in there for 23 years, so pretty much my whole life. So there is a lot of generosity with regards to what he's got to the table. He brings a lot of experience, but what I do is I bring a lot of new ideas to the table, Trent. I think it's that newer demographic that go down the road of social media, realestate.com, where Brad's very much bus stops and that older style of marketing. So I think it's a different energy towards different marketing as well and a different opinion.
That's a really good point. And that speaks to the two sides of the coin in real estate, really. A lot of it is marketing. Not only are you marketing the properties, you're often marketing yourself as well.
Yes.
Especially in a time now where there's less than 3,000 properties on the market. A balanced market is 13,000. That means the pie, the amount of work available for yourself and your colleagues is less than a quarter of what it would have been back 5 years ago. Absolutely. How do you go about winning work?
Yeah, I think, again, it comes down to experience and dynamics and how we move forward. And I think that's a combination. And as I said to Josh, like seeing so many different flows in a market that we've seen in trends, I've been through personally maybe 4 to 5 different trends. And with Josh, I suppose, coming into, he's only seen an up market. So it's more around the skill set of what it's like now in a market and using the experience of what we had and what we've been through to be able to drive and get more business, get good clearance. And I think where it comes down, and we talked about this before online, is just your transparency and your feel and just, I suppose, your reputation throughout the Perth market and the Stirling market. I think I know, and a lot of people in the area that we've sold multiple times and multiple generations of families, from selling their parents' home to their sister's home to their brother's home to friends' home as well. And I think you've got to build that rapport. So that's part of the business in our growth in Stirling. And I think what Josh is bringing to the table now is a lot of new energy, his follow-up, follow-through. That's been really big, I think, on your side, would you say, Josh?
I think so. And I think it's with the clients that we're dealing with, we've got a very big range of demographic.
That is Stirling, isn't it? It has a very broad demographic of nonners, young people that are grandkids of those as well. Everyone jostling for position in that suburb.
And in our team personally, clients will gravitate towards Brad's. More clients will also gravitate towards me as well. So we have that sort of range in the team, and people will move towards who they're comfortable with and who they want to work with.
I think we might see more parent-child duos in the future, certainly as the baton starts to get passed on as well. But I would count myself very lucky, if I was yourself, Josh, to have that landing pad of the 20 or so years of experience that your father has provided. It's often a very tough space trying to get into this industry, and even harder when there's that fewer listings available. Stick with them as long as you can, I would say.
That's it.
There's a lot of experience and goodwill that's been built in that brand on those bus stops for a couple of decades.
Yeah, that's for sure.
For sure.
Let's have a chat about Stirling if we can. The first thing I would suggest is of value is to get an understanding for the listenership. The suburb itself, people would easily know, I'd say Balcatta, they'd know Osborne Park, they'd know Chewett Hill. But even myself personally, I sometimes get caught having driven straight through Stirling, not really realised I was in it.
Yeah.
What are the points of interest? How do I know I'm in Stirling?
Yeah. I think Stirling as a whole, it's split up into 4 different sections. So you've got the 2 estates, Princeton and Rosalie Estate. They're probably viewed as the more superior part of Stirling. Then you come west down from that and you're in Old Stirling, like you say, with the nonnas and nonnas. That's the old Italian brick homes. So you'll know when you're there, that's for sure. That's got the double story undercroft garaging, or you've got the single story, large family homes, large segregated areas. So you've got the formal dining, formal lounge. If you come back across Karrinyup Road in front of the city of Stirling, in front of the train station, you've got a bit of a mixed bag through there. That's called Civic Gardens. That's you've got townhouses, and then you've got block sizes of about 300 to 500 square metres.
That's a really good way to explain it. I don't even know your dad could have done a better job, to be honest. It really paints me a picture. And I think people would have heard Princeton Estate. They may not have actually known it was in Stirling because it nearly has a name for itself, doesn't it? It is a really beautiful part of the world. If you haven't driven around it before, it's a canal system that's probably been built out of a swamp, if we're honest about it, and a creative way of dealing with a high water table in the area back in the day, but some very beautiful, as a minimum standard, 2-story houses around most of those streets, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
The proximity to the city, that's the biggest thing with the influx of people. I think if we look at the history of Stirling, and again, we talk about the old 60s and 70s Italians coming into the area, and that predominantly where it all started. And then from there is we got the development of Princeton and Rosalie, where they reclaimed the land, if you like to say, and then built on that. That was a really big changing point for the area. And when we started in the area, and I've probably been working that very strong for a sort of 15, 16 years, most of the old Stirling, there was 60s, 65, 70, now they're 80 and 90 and moving out of the area, and you're seeing a younger demographic coming into that area, maybe from jumping across the highway from Scarborough or Duncraig and looking for those bigger blocks. And those areas that were developed back in the Rosalie and Princeton, they were the Italians that basically had the land, and then they got their kids in it, and then we resold that sort of thing. And now you're seeing a really international clientele, sort of Asians to Indians, doctors, pilots, nurses, and things like that. So it really is changing all the time. And I think the biggest thing is that we've got school catchment areas changing, and we've had infrastructure put in with shopping centres and things like that as well. You're a minute to the train station, you're 8 kilometres to the city, you're 5 minutes to the beach, Karrinyup. So all of that sort of thing is now changed that whole aspect of Stirling. And then you've got surrounding areas like Yukon and Gwelup that are a lot higher prices. We're finding that the prices have now really changed in that area, and people are seeing the value in what we've got there to sell.
It'd be tough to call it a first home buyer suburb these days, wouldn't it?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I think when you talk about medium house price through there,
I mean,
probably
we're about 1,370 as a medium house price, which is about 14% up from last year.
Yeah, you wouldn't have many people in their 20s pitching that high, would you?
No. And it continues to go. I think it'll go into that sort of 1.4 in the early months of 2026. So like you said, it is a harder price bracket to get into at that first home buyer.
Is 137, the median house price, is that representative of a lot of houses? We often find in suburbs, I'll ask that question, they say not many houses actually sell for that amount because there's probably a disparity between the really expensive ones and the cheaper units.
Yeah.
What am I getting for 137 in Stirling right now?
You're probably getting an entry-level property, a 1972 to probably just on the 90s in Old Stirling, probably around about a 670 square metre.
So one of those undercroft Italian.
Yeah, something like that, unrenovated. And then when you go into the renovations, you're stepping up into that 1.4 to 1.6 mark. And then if you want to turn into the Princeton, Rosalie or any of those estates, you're probably finding that you'll be around that 1.5 to 1.750.
Big house, smaller lots.
No, it's smaller, just single level home, 4x2, probably 2003 built. And then you're stepping up again to a 2-story, which starts about 1.8 and goes to currently, we sold one at $2.65 million there in Princeton. So that's the higher end of.
Was that a record?
Yes, that would be a record for the area, yeah.
I mean, that price point over $2.5 million was reserved for the deep western suburbs only a few years ago.
Yep.
What's the cheapest thing I can get in Stirling? Do you have any of the old flats anywhere? Any old units?
We actually do have a complex coming up on Osborne Place in January of this year. We've got that one coming up. The developers just bought that as a parcel of land, about 3,000 square metres. There's about 15 units in the complex. and they're going to be about 10 one-bedders and 5 two-bedders.
It's an older style units, like a block of flats, like the old Scarborough block of flats, 1970, 1972 original. We'll be partly renovating those and then putting them on the market. And they'll sort of capsulate a starting price of around about that sort of 400, early 400s for a one bedroom. And a two bedroom is probably currently going to fetch somewhere in that early fives, and it probably touch on a 6, depending on if it's ground level or not.
There you go. There's entry.
Yeah,
There's
and
first
that's
homer.
entry level, and that's across the road from the hospital. So you basically got good location there for rental return as an investor. And then for a first homeowner, anything under that 800 now in the Perth market is huge. And the distance to the train station is walking distance. So that would probably be our current, I would see,
Complex,
entry-
in that entry
yeah,
level
yeah.
price, yeah.
How many properties are transacting in this suburb off the back of your hand at the moment?
Yeah.
On a monthly basis?
Yeah, per annum, there's about 140 last year.
Okay, so just over 10 a month that
Yeah.
are moving.
That's right.
When you head into a home open at one of these 10 a month on the weekend right now,
Yeah.
how many people are rocking up? And out of them, how many are putting offers in?
Yeah, we'll probably see real influx of people. So going back even 2 months ago, we were seeing numbers like the one we had in Whittle. We had basically, I think we had like 60 per home open coming through, 60 or 70. At the current moment, we'd be probably ranging around an 8 to 15 as a median.
That's
We're
a
into
stark
December.
difference.
So yeah,
What's
so,
happened?
yeah, I think just December is one of those months where everyone gets busy,
Yeah.
busy doing stuff, where it's Christmas after functions and parties going on. January where it fires up again. So we're coming off the back end of people's buying curve. And now I think moving forward is we'll find that moving to January's, a lot of agents will be putting on stock for the January and that whole new energy. Everyone gets tired towards the end of the year. Everyone's got things on.
Including
especially-
agents.
Yes, exactly. Yep, exactly. So I think that's where it's at. But it has been predominantly around about, I'd say, around 20 odd average.
I
per
think
home
so,
open.
yeah, around that 20 mark.
How many offers are you getting out of 20?
We're still probably ranging from about 5 to 10 offers. It's 20 per home open. So
Yeah.
you might open it. We usually run a 2-week campaign. So it's usually a Wednesday night, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday night, Saturday, Sunday. So you're doing 6 home opens in the fortnight. You're still getting up to 5 to 10 offers. So there is still plenty of interest. And that's even in December where we are now. Like Brad was saying, 2 to 3 months ago, you were having 60s and 70s through a home open, which almost seems unattainable to actually service 60 or 70 buyers in a home open. But we're still getting that 5 to 10 offers on a property.
And that talks to the statistics, really. Whilst Brad's saying the numbers at home opens have dropped off a bit in the holiday period, what we haven't seen a drop off of is transactions.
Yeah.
We're
No.
still transacting on over 900 properties a week at the
Yeah,
moment, which
yeah.
is pretty much a third of the market going every week. And what that demonstrates is you only need one offer to make a transaction. It's just that the pool might be a little bit smaller right now. But as you said, I think the expectation is that builds back up again as it has for the last 5 years straight in January, Feb, where we see most of the growth every year, except for this year with all the noise around interest rates and elections and Trump. And earlier this year was a bit of a funny early part of that 2025. I don't see that noise happening in 2026. And
No.
I see a continuation of the dynamics we've seen right now. And Stirling is, as you said, it's one of those transitional suburbs. You're either moving up into it, life goals,
Yeah.
or you're moving around it because you're already in it.
Yeah, that's right. I think you're right, Trent. I think going into 2026, that's funny to say that, but in the start of 2025, we saw that buyer fatigue going in December into January, and we thought like it had settled down, and then it slowly just grew back up again, especially, like I say, with the change of interest rates, government and everything that was going on, it just continued to move. And then we had stock levels going down, which then took it to another level again. I think it'll be a normal market in 2026, and it's still an upwards market, yeah.
Did the 5% first home buyer deposit scheme from Albo make much of a difference in your market, given most of your properties sit above the threshold?
Yeah, when we were selling things under that, Josh, we've probably had really
Yeah,
good numbers through the
that's-
couple that we had.
That's right. So I've done a couple of those basement price properties in Stirling, and if it was under 850, it did have an effect. But anything really at that average sale price and up, it really doesn't make too much of a difference.
Yeah, and all we'll probably see over time is just a ripple effect of the 600s moving to 800s, the 800s moving to millions, and go from there. You brought in a couple of anecdotes for us, Josh,
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
sales that have been made a few years ago and then on the same property very recently. Hit me.
Yeah, so I think 2 of the most recent sales of ours, one of them being one on Sunrose Link in Rosalie Estate. So that's in one of the estates. That one we sold in 2021. 4x2, 2004 build. It's a corner block across from the park. So quite a generic single level in Rosalie Estate. That one transacted at 995,000, which was actually the last under $1 million Rosalie Estate sale. We just sold that one there for 1.6, almost identical to when we had it sold back 4 years ago. And that's about 600,000 in equity. We actually used for the pro shot the same photos that we did in the campaign from 4 years
Save
ago.
a bit of money.
Yeah, we actually did a bit of combination, but we felt that the other photos look better. There shows you 600,000 in equity in less than 4 years, and the house is almost identical to when we sold it 4 years ago. And probably another one across Karrinyup Road in Princeton Estate, so the different estate. We sold that one in Milano, again, another corner block. Your very generic 4x2 double story. That one we transacted in 2019 for 850. In 2019, that was the going rate for a 4x2 double story home in Princeton Estate.
It was the bottom of the market.
Yeah.
It was, and we had COVID and all that sort of stuff.
was
So
the
that was
11th
really, that's exactly right. So you saw some big changes in what people were willing to pay.
And who was
going
rocking
to
up?
Exactly.
What was life like back in 2019? Before we hear what the updated sales price is.
It was hard work because obviously you had to do a lot of pre-qualification. So, you needed to call them, understand where they are, ask COVID questions, and then we had to set up 15-minute home opens for intervals there. So, it was a real tough time for seller, buyer and agent because a general home open would take you 2 to 3 hours and you'd be rocking through 6 people, and everyone thought the world was going to end as well. So no one really wanted to commit, and people that were committing wanted to get out because they thought the world was going to end. So it had changed a lot. But that one in Milano now is currently transacted recently, hasn't it?
Yeah, we transacted that at 1.7. Again, almost identical. They didn't have any major renovations to the wet areas or kitchen or anything. And
so in the space of 6 years, 100% increase in value.
Yeah.
And in the space of 4 years, a 60% increase in value on your first example.
Yeah, that's right.
And that talks to broadly most of Perth, to be frank, and it just shows that Stirling really is a bit of a yardstick. It's middle Perth in a lot of ways these days, and it's hard to admit that when you're at 1.37 median house price.
Yeah.
It really represents most of Perth. In the main, we have some suburbs, the Coolblup, Willagee, for example, that make that look like stinking numbers, to be honest, which is really crazy to think about. Properties that were selling in the mid 300s now selling for close to $1 million in that same time frame. You think about that growth percentage. But certainly for those price points, what it does suggest and prove is that most of the time it's about time in the market. And if you get very lucky, you can also time the market. None of us would have really known, and none of us did know back in 2019 that this is where we'd be at today in 2025 when it comes to property. So there's a lot of dumb luck as well in this market.
Real estate is all about that. It's all about timing, transacting and being in the right place at the right time, and then taking that opportunity to be able to grow. And you do get cycles. And that's just Perth. But I think as a suburb, Stirling, and as a state, Perth, I think we've still got lots more growth, lots more opportunity, and Australia in itself. When you look, and I do a little bit of travelling now, and you go overseas to areas like Tokyo, or you might go to Vietnam, or you're going to bigger places, you have a look at the people and what's around and pricing and opportunities. I think our little Perth, our little Australia, there's a huge opportunity for growth for us and for our kids moving forward.
Talking about growth and opportunities, development, subdivision, renovations, things that we talk about a lot on this podcast as well. Would it be fair to say that Stirling is past that when it comes to subdivision? Are there many opportunities left to carve a backyard off or do a triplex?
Yeah, you need a certain size block to be able to do that. So there's limited around that. I think what they'll do with the urban planning, I expect that'll change. The sizes of block, like they're talking about City Beach and Florida at the moment, changing blocks of land because we just don't have the infrastructure in it around our CBD. We've got that further north, but really their traffic and transport's a little bit hard. So I think that will change over time. We still have, and Josh might be able to talk about that in a minute, but we had one where people are flipping still. So basically we had someone that bought one of our properties around Christmas time for around 900,000 and basically flipped it in a 4-month period where I think we transacted it.
Yeah.
That was on Green Street.
Yeah, 1,415. So they bought that for 905.
What was it like?
Not very good. It had animals living in there. It was a dog box, to be completely honest with you. But when they purchased it, they gutted everything. It was a really quick turnaround. I think it was 4 months from the time we handed the keys to the new handover that we did. So it was a cash buyer, settled in 21 days.
Sounds like a professional business. This one.
It was.
And so new floors, new walls, new cabinets, new tiles,
everything top to bottom. And again, they transacted at 905 and we transacted that 4 months later at 1,415.
and it's probably sitting at around 1.520
Yeah,
now. And
absolutely.
look, it wasn't very nice and very presentable, but the location, which was Grieve Street, it was a really nice location in Stirling there, close to the IGA, close to the park, the Waterlands and things like that. So location of the street was brilliant, but obviously home, we should open the door, close the door pretty quick, and that was it. That was it.
One of those listings where you see the location, but you don't see the insides on the photos.
That's right,
Yes. And I think what residents and people purchasing into the area look for in Stirling is we're still R20 single residential zoning for most of Stirling.
It's quite unique.
It is. So when people are looking into the area, that's actually a huge benefit for them. You might drive through some other suburbs these days and you've got 3 or 4 lots on the one property. Whereas you go through Stirling, Old Stirling.
That's Balcatta, Chewett Hill,
Yeah.
Osborne Park. So you're right, it is a little bit
It's
of
a
an
niche.
island.
Yeah, that's right. So, and that's what people, especially those younger families, are looking for something where they can value add, and also they're not going to have 10 other homes on top of them. They've got that feeling of space driving through the street.
Is it replicatable? Are there a number of other properties around Stirling that are really unloved that you could do the same thing with?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Would a lot of those be the old Italianate properties with the undercrofts that someone's retired or passed away in?
And unfortunately, I guess with the demographic of Old Stirling particularly, a lot of those people have been there for 30 or 40 years. They might have built it themselves or have a cousin that's built it for them.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're moving on to aged care or in with family. So you'll see more and more of that. And we have seen, especially over the last 12 months, more and more of the families moving out. And it's that younger generation that are moving into the area. And there's plenty of opportunity there because there's too much maintenance. And a lot of the Italians and things haven't done anything to the properties. So they're pretty much a 1970s, 1980s original home.
Great bones as well to the home, solidly built.
Yeah.
And the character of that's not my cup of tea, that sort of 70s look, but a lot of the younger ones, let's say late 20s, early 30s, they like the funk of that, and they're keeping with that design of just modernising wet areas and kitchens, but staying with the flow of it. And we had one in Corella that we did there, and they went more, I think, hills, and that was they kept with the flow of the home, and we had so many people really comment on that. And it was a massive home, massive rooms, and that transacted over 1.5. So I think that's the thing that if you're going further north, say you're going Craig, Careen, or even further north now, trying to get a big block under the $2 million mark, or you're transacting anywhere from $1.7 to $2 million, and you can come in and you can get a starting price of 1.3 to 1.4 for something in Stirling. It's really good value.
Who are we competing with if we're trying to sell in Stirling right now? Where are the buyers also looking?
So in the estates, the newer properties are 2,000 and newer. They'll be looking around at areas like Karrinyup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not so much Careen for the newer estates. That'd be Old Stirling. So you got the bigger blocks, things like that. It'd be more like Gwelup, Yokine to a certain area, and Karrinyup. And then for the older Stirling, so where you've got the older sort of homes, that'll definitely be Karrinyup, Gwelup as well, Old Gwelup. Balcatta to a certain degree. Balcatta's now moved up a fair bit in price, definitely pre-Christmas, because you could still get a nice 3 or 4x2 home there for under $1 million. And Stirling, you're paying sort of 1.3 and floating more.
Surprising, though. Normally you'd expect to see the suburb closer to the city is costing more.
Yes.
What's going on there? Is the stock is not as high quality?
In Balcatta? Yeah, in Balcatta, I just think Balcatta has a mix. I think it has a real mix. So you've got some units. So you go the other side of the highway, so Champion Street and places like that, you've got a lot of units, so a lot of 2-1 units. So that brings that price down. But there's some really nice locations like Dorrington that we just sold a home in Balcatta for $2.3 million. Who would have thought? But so I think there's that mix, whereas Stirling, there's not so many units there. And that's why I think Stirling holds its price a little bit more to, say, a Balcatta area or even further, like Nollamara or even Balga for that point.
I liken it to a Winthrop of the north.
Yes.
It stands it in its own in a little way.
It does.
Brad, you've been walking these streets, driving these streets for a couple of decades now.
Yep.
If I was to ask you for the best street in Stirling, what would it be?
I think from a point of view of the locals, Kookaburra would have to be one of the premium streets there.
Which estate's that in?
That's Old Stirling.
Old Stirling.
So,
okay.
You've got a lot of the Italians that moved out of the estates into and around Older Stirling for more space and things like that. You've got a lot of the Italians and the original people that were in the area that are still in that area there at Kookaburra. And there's some big homes there. City views, really nice. That's probably one of the key places for a lot of the original Stirling people.
And if you could move in yourself, buy a house with $2 million tomorrow,
Yep.
What would your favourite street be?
I think another one I would say would be Lanchester. I think Lanchester is another key one that's up there. Kookaburra is nice, and look, I'd go that one as well. But obviously Lanchester, just across the road from the city of Stirling, close to the train station, very localised. You've got a beautiful big park in the middle. Only local traffic goes in there, walking distance to everything, big homes, looking over a park. I'm in a park where we are now, so I like that. So I'd have to say for myself, probably Lanchester. I like land and I'd like a bit of space. There's some beautiful homes in Princeton and Rosalie, amazing homes. But for myself, I like a little bit of space. So I'd have to say probably Lanchester or Kookaburra would be my sort of favourite.
Josh, for the young kids?
Yeah, I think with the demographic coming into Old Stirling, definitely something in Old Stirling as well. The Kingfisher's also one. That backs onto a park as well. I think that with the demographic coming into the area, very relatable to my age. I think something along Kingfisher.
And that is an interesting thing as I'll finish this off. I do notice there seems to be a level of pragmatism coming into your generation, if I can speak as a 35-year-old in your generation.
Yeah.
There really is a delineation, I think, in our generations clearly now, but which is embarrassing. But there seems to be a pragmatism of actually being ready to roll the sleeves up, buy something that needs a bit of work and actually value the old school
Absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely.
Have you noticed that?
Oh, 100%. And I think what Brad was saying in regards to buying these older properties, a lot of people are still keeping up with that 1980s. There's still a bit of vintage in there.
It's not somewhat cool.
I think it's somewhat cool.
Yeah.
I think absolutely. I think they still want to keep a little bit of that older demographic and an older look to the property, but then also modernising the wet areas and the kitchens as well. So I think it's something that people are continually doing, and I think it won't stop either.
Deco's coming back, boys.
That's it. Absolutely.
Thank you very much for your time. Have a great Christmas.
Likewise.
And good luck in late January, early February dealing with the swamp of offers you're about to receive, in my opinion.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks, Trent. Thanks for having us.